Welcome to the Secret Rooms podcast. Shh. In these secret rooms, we dive into the unseen spiritual realm, drawn from revelation, real-life experiences, and biblical truth. I'm Sharon Razia. You can also call me Sherry, and I'm here to help you awaken and transform so you can stop living on autopilot. Each episode is meant to provoke and pull you toward the desires and purpose written into your spiritual design. And because spirituality is a part of real life, we'll also talk lifestyle, relationships, the messy moments, the growth, and the faux pas we've learned from.
Qu'est-ce que je vais te nommer dans mon cœur? L'amour sans logique à la raison.
Hey roomies, welcome back to Secret Rooms podcast. This is episode 8, part 3. So we are still in the series of Reckless versus Refined, and parts 1 and 2 were episodes 6 and 7. So I really hope you get a chance to listen to that first before coming here, because I kind of am enjoying the natural flow and the natural unraveling of how this is coming together, in the sense that it really started with the outer perspectives and outer things and outer subjects of a person, and now it's kind of going more and more internal, and I'm pretty interested in today's topic, which is masculinity and femininity, which is something I love talking about. And so we're taking a good hard look at what's reckless and what's refined when it comes to how we move, how we carry ourselves, and the energy we bring into relationships, social spaces, and everyday life. And we're going to start soon, but before we do, of course, what's everyone doing? What are we eating? What are we drinking? What are you doing right now? Are you at the gym? You know, maybe just ending your workout with a slow treadmill walk? Are you on your way to work early in the morning? Maybe it's a long commute. Are you making dinner after work or on a Sunday night? Let me know what you're doing and what are you drinking? Are we having wine? Are we having coffee? Are we having water? I am deeply craving another cup of coffee right now, but I've already had 2 black coffees today, nothing fancy, no velvety espressos today. And I am just trying to stick to my water and guzzle that down. But I would love to know what you're doing and how you listen to your podcast. I really love to know who's at the other end of, this sound, and who's connecting, who's resonating, and who's listening. What are you about? What's your lifestyle like? I would just love to know and connect in that way. But yes, today we're going to get started with what's reckless when it comes to masculinity and femininity. Let's start. So, theme number 1 is manipulation. Reckless is weaponizing femininity to manipulate outcomes. This can take on several forms, and I promise you I've seen it all. This can look like using seduction as leverage. So, presenting femininity or sexuality in a calculated way to gain something, to gain attention or favors or access or some sort of advantage, whether it's emotional or physical or something to fill a void like loneliness, or even something financial. The focus shifts from real connection to trying to attain control over a person or over outcomes. So you might have noticed this, whether you're a man or a woman, you might have done this or seen this. Sometimes people use other people to fill a void in themselves, to fill their loneliness, to have attention. Even if they're not truly interested in that person, they can be using that person's attention or kindness as a way of filling their own sadness or void. Another way this is represented is in when women can use their beauty, their magnetism, their sensuality, giving a man attention, giving a man time, giving him flattery and all of these other things so that they could gain maybe some sort of social status, maybe financial status, maybe financial help, support, gifts. There's so many ways that people use their sensuality and sexuality to gain something. It could even be in the workplace. Obviously, we've seen this even on TV. It's such a trope where you see this very beautiful or sexualized woman playing this role and working very close to a high power leader. And then, people moving up the rank because they have this connection or this sway over this person, but they both know they're just using each other. They both know they're both being manipulated. Another way you might see this is when women portray this damsel in distress type of posture, where they act helpless in an exaggerated way, or they act like they can't do something or they don't know how to do something to avoid responsibility. The women that do this don't always understand this as a manipulation tactic. They probably see this as, I don't know how to do it, so I can just ask someone else to do it. So what I'm referring to is, for example, if you can imagine there's this big project or this big event that everybody's working on. And at this event, everyone's doing something. All the volunteers, all the people that are there to help are doing something. They're all busy. But then there's this one person who is like, well, I can't carry the heavy tables because those are too heavy. I can't help with audio visual because that's too technical. I don't really do decor stuff, so I don't know how to work with that. And I don't do food, like I don't know how to cook, or I don't know how to, display the food, so I can't really help there. So, maybe I'll just tag along and keep someone entertained while they're doing the work. Or maybe it's saying, I don't know how to do all these things, so I'll just go sit down and wait. This is just a random example, but you see it often. You see it here and there when you're working on something and not everyone's carrying an equal load, or not everyone is supporting in the same way. And in these cases, what I would think is the reasonable and wise thing to do is find the person that does something the best. So if you're maybe interested in helping out with displaying the food, or helping with decorating, or helping with setting up tables, if you can't find anything easy enough to do where you can actually be useful and helpful, you would find someone who's doing something you're interested in and doing it the best, and copy them. Go follow them around, say, how can I help you? And copy them, do what they're doing, ask if you could even assist them. And that way you're learning from someone who's doing it really well. And then the next time you're at these types of events, you have some experience, you have some knowledge on how to do the thing. And so it's never cute to just say, I don't know how to do this thing, can someone else do it? Because then you're not really building on any skills, you're not really being useful in that situation, you're not supporting. And if anything, you're just being sort of a burden or someone who's in the way. So it's so much better to figure out a solution, figure out a way to learn the skill, or to support in whatever way you can. Being that damsel in distress gets tiring because people can see right through it. People are not looking at that person thinking, oh, it's so cute, it's okay, she can't do it, she can just entertain me while I do it. To be honest, nobody thinks that. Everybody's like, girl, get out of the way or help out. To be honestly cutting and sharp, that's what it is. So learn a thing, learn a skill, be useful somewhere, help out in some way, have the right intentions in the heart, and don't try to take the lazy way out because it's not even doing you any good. Next on the list is excessive flattery or flirtation. Most people these days can tell when praise is given not from a place of sincerity, but from some sort of strategy or tactic. You might just think, I want to go talk to this person and I want to be friendly and just maybe build a deeper connection with this person because everybody seems to like this person. And while you're doing that, you're like, how can I gain access to this person? Let me be really nice and compliment them. Well, that in itself is not coming from a place of sincerity because you have an end goal. You're not going to that person because you notice something great about them and you want to tell them what you're feeling. You're going to them with this strategy that I want to get closer to this person by doing such and such so that I can gain maybe more intimacy with them, maybe more closeness, maybe social access, whatever it might be. And so when you flatter someone with words, especially when you string on a bunch of compliments out of nowhere, it doesn't always read as believable. And I'm one of these people that really do not enjoy flattery. Because for me, it's all about realness. If you're going to approach me and talk to me, I would prefer that you're extremely honest and real, and you can be as kind and sweet as you want to be, and I will be kind right back to you. But for me, honesty is so much more important than flattery. I don't need you to praise me to get my approval. I would prefer you to be your authentic self and be honest and have a real conversation. That goes so much further in building a true connection. It's hard for people especially people like me, to continue believing the next words that come out of your mouth because the initial words don't read as authentic. So there are a lot of people out there who value authenticity over praise. And for those people, you will not read as an honest person. You will read as someone who just says whatever they want to get something, or says whatever they want to just appear to be a sweet, kind, nice person. And it's hard to believe that we know the real version of you. Moving over to flirtation. Some people seem very flirtatious right off the bat, whether they're men or women. This can go for both. And when you start noticing that they're like this with a lot of people, and if you ever were to bring it up or talk to them about it, they might just say, I just have a flirty personality. This is kind of just who I am. I'm just a flirty person. But flirtation is a behavior and not an identity. When you direct it without discriminating, so literally at anyone and everyone, it creates these emotional signals that are not really rooted in intention. It looks like a lack of self-awareness. It looks like a lack of confidence. It looks like you need to use these mechanisms and these tactics just to build connection. And you might be flirting with people you're not interested in, along with people you are interested in. And not only will you be giving a lot of mixed signals, but the person you are interested in will read this as, oh, this is some sort of personality weakness. They do this with everybody. I'm not someone special to this person. So I'm going to walk away from this because I see red flags. So yeah, flirtatiousness and having a flirty personality, it's not an identity. It's not a personality type. It's just a behavior that you need to get in check. You need to be more aware and more discriminate and, have those boundaries and intelligence and wisdom in the way that you're speaking to people and the way that you're interacting. Kindness, sweetness, softness, or charm come out very different from just pure flirtation. The next part that I want to talk about in relation to manipulation and reckless behavior is withholding affection or intimacy as a bargaining chip. So now this would be with someone that you're in some sort of relationship with, or someone that you're working towards a relationship with. When you withhold affection or intimacy in order to play games or to control outcomes, that is still manipulation. It is still reckless. Because true, genuine affection for someone, true care, true love should not have manipulation tactics integrated into it. There shouldn't be, if you don't do what I want you to do, I am going to treat you badly. Or if you don't do what I want you to do, or say the things I want you to say, or treat me the way that I want you to treat me, I am going to not show you any love or care or respect or affection. Especially in marriage, this could become really toxic. It could be really toxic when you don't feel things are going your way, or you're not in the best mood. And so you treat your partner with that toxic energy, or with unkindness, or with disrespect. These are all different ways of insecurity projecting itself. And most people can read this. This is when warmth is often removed depending on what the outcome will get. So if you're doing this, and if these are the games that you're playing, whether in a relationship or whether in pursuing someone or in a marriage, this is toxic behavior. This is highly toxic behavior, because your love and affection and the way you treat someone should not change based on the fact that you're not getting what you want. Another layer of this is projecting an overly sweet, overly submissive, overly seductive persona that doesn't reflect your true internal state, so who you really are on the inside. So your outer expression consistently hides your real emotions and needs, and when you do this, resentment begins to build quietly. And this quiet buildup of resentment can go on for a long time. It could go on for a couple of weeks. It could go on for months, years even. But when it begins to build like this quietly in the background, it's going to explode somewhere. And there's going to be some sort of breaking point or burnout because of it. In all of these cases I mentioned, the feminine essence is no longer being used as an honest expression of who you are, but rather it becomes this tactic or strategy to get something out of it. Okay, so let's shift. Refined. Refined is femininity that is authentic and self-aware. So refined femininity does not rely on manipulation because it doesn't need to. There's this ease that comes from knowing who you are from the inside, a softness that flows naturally when you've worked through traumas, when you've worked through the dark stuff, when you've worked through letting go of insecurities and walking in confidence, when you really know yourself. So from that, attraction emerges from this alignment of who you are with who you're meant to be from God, rather than performing and pretending and trying to be something that you're not. A refined woman doesn't need to pretend to be incapable of something so that they could feel cared for. She develops competence and chooses partnership from a place of strength. She can be receptive to good things and great treatment without being passive or a doormat. She can be warm and build true connections without being overly flattering or flirtatious. Her affection is so sincere and it's not transactional. And this is where that awareness brings on magnetism and attraction and allure. And this is where women become powerful because it's clean, it's pure, it's coming from good intentions and self-work. Now we are going to look at masculinity. So recklessness is weaponizing masculinity as control. So this can look like dominance in conversation, where every disagreement becomes something to win rather than trying to understand the people around them. This is where they're not trying to collaborate with people, whether it's team members at a workplace or team members in a sports league or friend groups where, you're all just hanging out together to watch the game, or you're just having conversation and drinking or whatever it is. There's no collaboration because it's overshadowed by the need to assert some sort of dominance or authority. Next, reckless can be suppressing emotion and treating vulnerability as weakness. Over time, this type of suppression turns into resentment. It turns into anger or emotional unavailability or even just pure cold attachment. If you're a masculine and you are someone who likes to learn and increase your knowledge and your skills and grow as a human being, your mindset, all of those things, if you are constantly on that growth mentality, then emotional intelligence should be super high on that list, especially if you want to be someone who is a leader in your field, a thought leader in your industry, in your workplace, or if you are just a dominant personality and you are the leader in your group of friends, you need to have emotional intelligence. It's 2026, and if you still have not figured out how important emotional intelligence is for you as a man, whether you want to be in leadership or in any type of relationship, whether it's with a woman or, with family, with friends, with teammates, whatever it is, if you have not figured out how high of a role emotional intelligence plays and how much more access, how much more awareness it will get you, how much better of a person it will make you, well, it's time to just put on those big boy pants and learn, because you cannot avoid emotions. Emotions are not weakness. You are made with emotions inside of you. And on the daily, you are expressing yourself through emotions. Maybe you think crying or sadness or vulnerability is weak, but then you are expressing yourself through anger and control and overly being dominant or jealousy or arguments, whatever it is, you're expressing yourself in different ways, but you're only focused on the negative emotions or the emotions that you feel are strong or tough, when the full spectrum of emotions is what you're made of. So you're not really being authentic to who you are because you're limiting more than half of who you are as a being. Next, let's look at leadership. So masculinity that is trying to manipulate can look like aggression in leadership. So instead of leading people from a place of serving them, helping them, teaching, and mentoring, you're leading through intimidation. And that produces silence. And silence is not the same as respect. You have to see that. If you're someone who leads a team, or you're someone in some form of leadership, you have to know that if people are silent around you, it's not always because they respect you and agree with everything that you're saying. It could be that they feel uncomfortable to speak up, uncomfortable to bring up their weaknesses or their points, because they're going to immediately be judged or shut down by you. So, keep your eyes open for that aggression in any type of leadership. Next, it can look like defining your worth through conquest. And what I mean by this is trying to acquire money, acquire assets, acquire status, acquire romantic partners that make you look good, just visible achievements. When your identity depends entirely on these external things to make you look better or feel bigger, this is a sign of fragile masculinity. And that fragility is going to just be under the surface, and it's going to start pouring out of you in so many other different ways. Like I said, most people these days do care about emotional intelligence, and they can see when a masculine is projecting or using a lot of external markers to validate themselves so that they could seem more important or valuable than they actually feel inside. Next, manipulation through masculinity can show up as dismissive protection. So what I mean by this is assuming that you know everything in every group that you're in or in every relationship that you're in. You always think you know what's best, and best for others even. So for example, like overriding other people's autonomy under this guise of like helping. So as an example, say you're at a restaurant and your partner, your wife, your girlfriend, your best friend, your cousin, whoever, you're at dinner with a woman and you're going to eat, and it's time to order, and she's taking a lot of time to figure out what she wants. Not because she is unintelligent, but because she wants to be very specific in what she's having. But in that moment, you're thinking, oh, maybe she doesn't know this place. Maybe she doesn't know this type of food. Let me just figure it out for her. Order this. This is going to be good for you. You will like this. That type of behavior can be very aggressive and dismissive of the other person's feelings. And that other person might not voice it to you saying, that's not really what I want, because they're afraid that your aggression is just going to take over. And you're doing it thinking that you're helping them, but really you're not, because we have autonomy. We have the ability to govern ourselves, our own thoughts, our own emotions, our desires, our dislikes, all of it. So if you are the person who's always trying to speak up for other people or make decisions for other people, sometimes that's necessary in a group where people say, please go ahead, you decide, because we don't want to be sitting here all day trying to figure it out. Go ahead, take the lead. That's great. Here's your chance. Step up and do your thing. But if it's unwanted and you're not reading the room and you're not reading the feelings of the person beside you, you are projecting. You are projecting your lack of patience, your dismissiveness, your lack of care for the other person's feelings, and you are assuming things that you shouldn't be assuming. Next. Okay, this one is one of my favorites because it is so common and people often overlook this in themselves. And it is this relentless grind mentality where you think that productivity is more important than being present, where you think achievement is the primary focus of your life and that is the only marker of success for you, and that relationships or your intimacy with your partner or closeness with your friends and kindness towards people around you, or just, spending time with kids or spending time with family, even your parents, you think that these things are not important, and rather what is important is productivity. So work, slave for your job, slave for your business, constantly grind, constantly chase, but we all know that anything you chase will run away from you. What you need to do instead is be grounded in who you are as a person, become aligned with your true calling and what you're supposed to do in this world, so that you can finally step into real success, real victory, real achievement that comes from a place of being grounded in your identity and in who God says you are. This is where real productivity should stem out of. It should be fruitfulness rather than where you are enslaved to something so that you feel validated. I've seen people who have run to things that are familiar for them. For example, running to work and just, slaving for their work, putting all of their energy and effort into their work because they feel really empty in anything outside of that area. At work, they're a star player. At home, they struggle to be present, sitting on the couch to have a conversation or helping with dinner and having a good social experience. They struggle without the things that make them feel like a man, without the things that make them feel important, because now they have to face areas of vulnerability and weakness, and they don't want to address those things, so they'd rather go to their comfort zone of where they feel validated. So let's quickly shift to what's refined for the masculines. Refined masculinity can lead with clarity rather than aggression or force. It leads with understanding and awareness. It values emotional intelligence as equally as it values strength and success. It protects people without dominating people and controlling people. It can understand that real authority carries the responsibility of caring for people around them or allowing people around them to be themselves and voice themselves. So a refined man does not measure himself mainly by his acquisitions and what he's acquired, what he's done, his successes, his material blessings, wealth, status, whatever it is. He understands how important it is for him to be present, how important it is for him to interact with people the correct way, not from a place of I'm ticking off all the boxes and doing things right, but from a place of authenticity and introspection and looking within and seeing, why do I behave this way with certain people? Why do these things trigger me? Why do these types of things aggravate me? Why do I want to lash out at this person, but I'm super nice to this person? It's somebody who looks inside themselves and thinks, hey, this is a little unstable, or this is not consistent with who I am as a person or who I want to be as a person. And so I'm going to take a look at this and start investigating within myself and with God, my creator, who has designed me specifically for this life. I'm going to take a look at these things and I'm going to invite God into this process so that I can actually get an outer understanding from outside of myself to explain why I'm doing this and how I need to change in this process. And one of the greatest markers of a refined man is that his presence feels steady and calm and not overwhelming. People feel safe around him and they naturally gravitate towards him because of who he is on the inside and who he is on the outside reflect one another, and it is just consistent. He is anchored and he's not volatile or aggressive or shifty. Okay, now we're going to jump into theme number 2, which is jealousy and emotional games. So these next ones I'm going to go through a little bit faster because most of them are self-explanatory. All right, so to start, Reckless is using jealousy or division as leverage. Most people would think that I'm not a jealous person and I would never create division, so I could just skip this. But to be honest, this shows up in multiple layers and you become more aware of these subtle things that you do that can cause jealousy or division or separation or chaos without even meaning to. But let's just get into some of the higher level stuff. This can appear in friendships when someone subtly creates tension between others so that they can remain the person that everyone is closest to or comfortable with. This can appear in relationships when someone intentionally provokes jealousy to increase desire. For example, this can be in a male-female relationship where maybe the female or the male are like oh my gosh, this other girl likes me, or this guy likes me, and he's been pursuing me all this time, and I've just been rejecting him. Because really, they're trying to tell the story of desire. They're trying to say, I am desired, and people are attracted to me in a way to provoke the person that they're talking to be drawn to them a little bit more. But really, these are just silly mind games, and nobody really has time for that. This can feel powerful because it produces some sort of reaction in a person, and in that moment, you might think you won. The moment you play that little game and you get that reaction that you wanted or hoped for, you might think you won. But the reaction is not lasting, and it doesn't build trust. There is a spiritual principle that's woven into our lives that shows up all the time, and that is that you reap what you sow. So anything that you sow intentionally, so if you're sowing insecurity and division intentionally, they don't stay contained where you left it. They multiply and they grow, and at some point they will return to you in another shape or form. Okay, so now the shift. What is refined? Being refined is emotional wholeness, emotional integrity, and emotional awareness. Emotional wholeness doesn't rely on chaos or division so that you can keep your connections close. It communicates authentically with good intentions and openly and honestly. It doesn't create insecurity in other people so that you can feel desired. That is such a major sign of insecurity itself. It understands that real desire is rooted in security, in confidence, in self-awareness, and it is stronger than desire that is rooted through fear. Let's go to theme number 3, which is conflict. So recklessness is submission used to avoid conflict. So sometimes people think that if I'm quiet and if I don't say that this thing is making me unhappy, or if I don't express myself, and if I just shrink myself a little bit, everything will be peaceful and we can maintain the harmony. They agree on the outside to everything that's being asked of them, while internally they're either dying on the inside or they're building a lot of resentment and anger. Over time, this creates a lot of negative tension and some sort of an internal fracture that eventually results in a deep, deep, deep wound and resentment that will cause this relationship to fall apart. So let's shift into refined. Being refined is being grounded in self-worth. Refined energy, it listens deeply to people around you or the relationship that you're in, and it's open to growth. It's open to hearing and understanding. But it's not abandoning yourself or your discernment. It's about honoring union and unity and maintaining that from a place of honesty, communication, and intention. So just remember, peace is not being silent. That does not create peace. It creates resentment. Real peace comes from something outside of yourself. For me, peace comes from God. In Philippians chapter 4, verse 6 to 8, it talks about not being anxious in any situation, but instead giving thanks to God and presenting your requests and your needs to Him. And then there's this supernatural peace that goes beyond human understanding that comes into your life and starts guarding your heart, your emotions, your mind, your thought patterns, and then your actions that flow from it. I truly believe that you can't attain real peace from just yourself. You can come to a place of being grounded and understanding and self-aware on your own, but there are so many areas of your wounds and traumas that you will not be aware of unless God's Spirit makes you aware. And that peace that you can build on your own through practices and rituals will give you peace, but temporarily. If you want true deep peace, it comes from being aligned with your Creator. It comes from knowing who you are, from the one that created you, and then flowing from that state into becoming the person that you're meant to be. I talk about alignment a lot because the past seasons of my life have truly been about alignment, and it's changed so much for me. And I want people to experience that. I want people to feel that true sense of purpose where everything in your life starts to make sense little by little, but it's such a trust journey. So anyways, peace comes through alignment with your Creator, and that peace goes beyond human understanding. So it will carry you through any hardship that you ever have to go through, and that peace will help you become the best version of yourself. Theme number 4, identity and worth. So reckless is needing to be chosen. So for women, this can look like seeking validation through being desired by someone or relationship status. And for men, it can look like seeking validation through status or conquest, like I mentioned before, and achievement, or even the women that you conquer, if we can call it that. When your identity is depending on being chosen by someone or something, it's unstable because it doesn't come from within you, and it doesn't come from your Creator, your source. It comes from external things that can shift at any point. They can move, they can shift, and so once those things shift, for example, if your identity is in your high-power job, when your company goes through massive transformations and you lose that job, is your identity completely gone? Who are you at that point? If you lose your licensing title, whether you're a doctor or a lawyer or some sort of practitioner, God forbid you lose your licensing title, what happens to you then? Who are you at that point if not for that title? Or if you're a wife and you pride yourself in being a wife and a mom, what happens if that was never the case and you didn't have those things? Then who are you? So shifting into refined, being refined is choosing to be aligned with your true identity, your true sense of self-worth that comes from knowing who you are, working on your weaknesses, working on your strengths, and being aligned spiritually, emotionally, mentally, and physically with your Creator, with God's will, with God's plans for your life, and His Word, and His Spirit. Because just knowing His Word alone will not allow you to walk in forward momentum all the time. You need to know His Word, but you need to be led by His Spirit that continually speaks to you. And living in such a way that your inner convictions and your outer life just come into agreement. So who you are on the inside is who you're reflecting on the outside. For me, alignment always comes to putting God first in my life. And I'm not trying to push God on anyone. This is my life, and this is my space where I'm speaking. So when I have intentionally sought direction from God, rather than relying on my own understanding or my own reasoning, things unfold in such a different way. They unfold with clarity. They unfold with this peace that goes beyond human understanding, and a provision in the desires of my heart and things that I didn't even ask God for, where He's providing for me. There's times in my life where God has done things for me where I didn't even ask, or He pulled me out of something. For example, say a job. He pulled me out of a job that was not in alignment with who I needed to be in the next season of my life. Say I was stagnant in it. He pulls me out of that job. And in that moment, I could start questioning and asking, why is this happening? But instead, what happens is He provides for me financially in bigger ways than I could have had than in just sticking to that job and doing the same things. He provides for me financially, emotionally, spiritually, but also in opening other doors, also in expanding me and changing me as a person so that I could really be who I'm supposed to be. So when you first seek God's kingdom, it brings alignment and it feels peaceful rather than forced. When you're aligned under God's pure direction, you can stop struggling and stop scrambling to be chosen, because you just trust that what is meant for you will not pass you by. And you will have things happen in your life that you could not even strategically, precisely orchestrate in that way, where it's like only God could do that. All right, so the last theme is number 5, sacred balance. Okay, so recklessness is allowing masculine and feminine energies to compete. So when masculinity attempts to dominate, and I kind of mentioned this a little bit before, or control, or when femininity attempts to dominate or control, there is pure tension. So this can go wrong in so many ways if you look at the probability, but I'll just highlight a couple. If both sides are being dominant and controlling, what you'll end up with is a lot of tension, a lot of anger and aggression, which leads to both parties being burnt out and tired and losing emotional intimacy and emotional safety. So they lose desire for each other and attraction towards each other because they only bring out the worst in each other. But say one side is being dominant and controlling and the other side is playing that submissive role, but they truly have other feelings on the inside and they're sad and they're not feeling heard or they don't feel safe and secure enough to open up, then what you have is the side that is dominant is thinking, okay, everything is going my way the way I want it to go, but I'm not receiving that affection from the other person. I'm not receiving that softness or that sense of desire and attraction towards that person or from that person. I'm not feeling that emotional glue. And the reason is because the other person has been shut down and they're not actually being themselves. So refined here is a sacred balance. The feminine honors intuition, creativity, emotional depth, and staying grounded in self-awareness and self-worth. The masculine honors structure, direction, and protection while staying calm, self-aware, and creating an emotionally safe space. When these two energies operate in synergy, they create this harmony, whether it's in marriage, whether it's in a family relationship, whether it's in the workplace. There is stability that is being built here, and there's mutual respect. The strength and the softness, they support one another and they both carry strength and softness. It's not like the feminine is soft and the masculine is strong. It works both ways. Women carry a strength and a softness, but it's different from the way men carry a strength and a softness. They support each other and they don't cancel each other out. All right, roomies. So this conversation carries a lot of weight because when masculinity and femininity are distorted, they can capsize a relationship, whether it's like coworkers or a best friend relationship or sister and brother or husband and wife or boyfriend and girlfriend, whatever it is. They can completely capsize a relationship when people don't understand how to function within their masculinity or their femininity. Refined masculinity and femininity create that clarity and that trust and stability, peace, comfort, etc. These two energies are meant to so heavily complement each other. They're meant to work in this beautiful harmony. They're meant to bring out the best in each other. But because we are so unaware of our areas of weakness or where we are operating in reckless ways, we often tend to bring out the worst in ourselves and as a result, bring out the worst in other people. Okay, so that concludes my series on reckless versus refined. I hope the lines have been less blurred now that we've had this conversation. So I know this conversation carried a lot of weight because distorted masculinity and femininity really can capsize a relationship. And a refined masculinity and femininity, mind you, these words are not easy to say over and over again. Anyways, they build clarity and trust and peace and stability and comfort. All right, so if this conversation resonated with you, please share it with someone who needs it. I really want to connect with my people, the people that find this type of messaging resonates with them and means something to them, or people who are on a similar journey and want to learn and grow together. So if you do want to continue this conversation and you have something that you want to share, you can reach out to me on Instagram at Secret Rooms Podcast. Or if you have any suggestions on topics or things that you would love to hear more of, please do reach out to me. Please give me a comment or a rating on Spotify if you get the chance to. I would really love that. Or follow on Instagram just to stay updated on what the next topics will be. All right, folks, I really hope you have the most amazing rest of your day and, enjoy whatever you're doing. Enjoy the present, the moment, the people around you, and maybe some of these points today triggered some thoughts in you, and some things that you want to work on within yourself, or have conversations with people around you, or even journal about. So do your thing. Let's continue staying committed to the process.